Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you. Happy New Year. Took a few days off over New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And then, of course, Monday, January 2nd, was the business holiday, the banking holiday for New Year's Day. But Happy New Year. Great 2023 ahead of us. Broadcasting live, Red River Ford Toyota here in Wynne, Arkansas. It is raining a lot. A lot of college football and basketball to talk about. This is an unbelievable time of year. A lot going on. So much stuff to cover. And we're going to get to it, man. We got Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com, checking in with us here and batting in the leadoff position. He, along with Frank Duffy, those are two of the most interesting men in the world. They've got a lot that they know about, and we'll talk about. Jordan Hill, in our second segment, joins us, 24/7 Sports, covering the Georgia Bulldogs. What a win they had Saturday night against Ohio State, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Like I felt all along that game, I thought Ohio State would come out with their hair on fire, because for the last month, since the Michigan beatdown at home Thanksgiving weekend, they had lost 45-23 in Columbus at the Horseshoe. They'd been told for the last month that they weren't any good, that they had backdoored their way into the college football playoff. All that was true. But they still got in there because the national media and their minders, which are on every network and every TV set, you pick them. Used to be Chris Carter, and that's Joey Galloway, Kirk Herbstreit. These just mild-mannered Ohio State guys from the Midwest, just the nice boy next door. But they're always pushing the Ohio State narrative. It doesn't matter what their record is. You're going to hear, even in the year of the virus, somehow the Big Ten and their feckless commissioner, Kevin Warren, they found a way to get Ohio State into the playoffs. And they did, and Alabama curb stomped them in the national championship game tonight. Hour number 2, Billy Roberts checks in with us from Atlanta. Billy, a man of all things, a wise man indeed, will check in with us. And he and Franz and I are going to have a lot of fun recapping a lot. We had a couple of guests. What a day. A lot of guests rescheduled. Sometimes this stuff happens. Jackie Sherrill was going to be on with us in the second hour. He's going to reschedule for later in the week. We love having him on. So we'll make that happen. But you improvise, adapt, and overcome. We're on 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, 2 hours each day. www.sidelines.live. And follow us on Twitter. We're getting after it on Twitter and social media. Our Twitter handle is @sidelines_live. All right, let's get going. Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com, the Iron Duke. And Franz, what's the takeaway from everything going on in college football? We're all, we're watching Monday Night Football last night, the Bills and the Bengals, and just we're praying for the recovery of Dylan Hamlin. Just hope everything's going to be okay. That was scary. And just thank God medical staff were there immediately to respond. But, we don't know anything more than what we know and what you know. But Franz Beard, let's get to college football. Your takeaway from how the SEC has played to this point and what lies ahead.
Well, let's start with the obvious, and that is last night. That I'm still just shaken up by that. I'm reminded, I wrote about it today. I'm reminded of something that Greg Sankey told me. We were both looking for coffee at the halftime of the Gasparilla Bowl in 2021 when we found ourselves not surrounded by everybody else and just had about 5 or 6 minutes, had just a really good chat. And we talked about a lot of things. And one of the things that I asked him about was, I said, how are we going to change the targeting rules that make them fair and at the same time keep the game safe? You can, everybody says, well, targeting's killing the game. No, it's not killing the game. What's killing the game is people getting hurt badly. And you got great athletes who are saying, I'm not going to play this anymore. Or you have great athletes coming up who are saying, wait a second, I don't have to play football. I'm good enough. I can play another sport, and they're doing it. Um, I talked to I talked to a friend of mine who's a former coach, who said, if he knew then what he knows now, he would have never let his kid play football. Never. And here's the interesting stat, Rob. The average player in the NFL, his lifespan is 59.6 years. The average lifespan of a normal American human that doesn't play professional football, 76.1 years. 17 years difference. And it's attributed, we focus so much on the brain injuries, and the brain injuries are serious. I look at the case of Aaron Hernandez, who they said his brain, they had never seen a brain like that on, that destroyed on a 27-year-old. And they could attribute it to all the blows to the head and everything. And the Aaron Hernandez, I know that he turned into some sort of a monster, but with the media, he was always polite and fun and funny, and people don't realize he was an academic All-American. Smart kid. But look what happened to his brain. But we focus on that, but we don't look at all the other things that happen, the big collisions that cause trauma to other parts of the body. Archie Manning walks with a cane now because of the neuropathy in his feet is so bad. That is so bad, and they say that was induced by collisions. We think of neuropathy as a diabetic disease. Well, it can also be caused by collisions. Wilbur Marshall, I got one of the very few interviews he's ever done. He lives in constant pain because of all of the trauma to his body. And you got to remember, Wilbur Marshall hit people like a truck.
Yeah.
You never looked at a guy that got tackled by Wilbur Marshall and saw him get up, smile, and said, "Oh boy, you got me that time, buddy." They got up and said, somebody called the paramedics. And you look at what happened last night, and it puts it all in perspective that we've got to find a better way. This is what Greg Sankey told me. He said, whether the hit is legal or illegal, he said the brain doesn't know the difference. And he says that that's the key to this whole thing. We got to find a way that protects the brain, whether it's a targeting hit, an illegal hit, whatever. We got to find a better way of doing it.
Well, and you're talking about these blows, and again, I'm not a doctor, you're not a doctor. That's obvious. I mean, but we do know doctors, and we read and we study and we listen to interviews, and when doctors are talking about these injuries, and there's a lot being done to make the helmets safer. The targeting rules are put out there, and bottom line, it's just they don't want them hitting with the crown of the helmet, and try to make the game as safe as it can be. But football is a violent, physical game. There's not a damn thing you can do about that. If you play it, you know what you're signing up for. And the medical staffs that are there on the sidelines, and the coaches, they need to know everything that they can. The doctors, the trainers, and they jumped on top of DeMar Hamlin last night. But that was rough to watch. And I mean, he got up and he collapsed. But it look at the people who played football. I mean, some of them, Charlie Trippey made it to 100 years old, died back in October, the great Georgia, All-American. He's in the college and the NFL Hall of Fame. But it's your body takes a beating. And I heard a lot of guys talking last night about, you play football, you're putting your life on the line. That's why there's so much emotion after the game. Guys are, shaking hands and hugging and whatever. But it is a tough game, and it's always going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
And what we have Kevin Skarbinski on a lot. Love Kevin. CoachSafely.org, Jack Crow, Kevin Skarbinski, Dr. Andrews. Have great people there in Birmingham. They're trying to coach 80,000 coaches a year. Have them take this class. It's about safety, about coaching safely. Sometimes, like Kevin says, you're a coach, you've got 15 or 20 kids that are 8, 9, 10 years old on your team. You're the first one that's going to react if something happens. You've got to know the signs of a concussion or an injury or whatever. It's not about making football soft. That's not going to happen. It's just about being safe out there. You go back to Wally Butts, legendary Georgia coach. My dad said growing up, he didn't allow his players to have water in practice. He thought it made them soft, and we've all heard stuff like that. But the game, the guys are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. Therefore, it's going to be more physical. And what we, just pray DeMar Hamlin makes a full recovery. And he's at the University of Cincinnati Hospital with the doctors in the trauma center, and hope to God he's okay. But you just don't want to see that. I mean, I remember what happened with Chucky Mullins, October 1989 against Vanderbilt. That was it was tragic, but it was just an accident. Wasn't it? He hit the tight end, Chris Gaines, for Vanderbilt. No malicious intent on anybody's part, just the way he hit. But the more that the equipment is getting better, and hope it works. Friends, let's switch gears now and talk about the big picture of all these bowl games. They seem like they've gotten better as they've gotten, later in late December, obviously early January. Watched a lot of good football. You watched the Rose Bowl last night. It was packed, Utah and Penn State. The Pac-12 this year had 5 teams win 10 or more games. UCLA won 9. Now, obviously, Southern Cal and UCLA are leaving. But look at Southern Cal. They lost twice to Utah, including the Pac-12 championship game. And then they got beaten 35-21 last night in the Rose Bowl by Penn State. Alabama takes the Big 12 champion, beats them, 45-20?
Yeah.
Tennessee beats the ACC.
Should have been worse.
Yeah. And Tennessee beats Clemson. Tennessee dominated Clemson from start to finish. Not quite as much as Georgia dominated Tennessee. But anyway, what's your takeaway from what I just listed?
Well, first off, the SEC, once you got past, I used to play work at Today newspaper when it was in Cocoa, and we go across the street when they got the paper done to Norman's and shoot pool and drink beer and eat hot dogs at midnight. And the managing editor of the newspaper named Buddy Baker used to shoot, and somebody else would get 2 or 3 off the table, and finally it was his turn. He'd say, "Yeah, I got all them trash fish off the pond." Well, all the trash fish got out the pond prior to, say, New Year's Eve, and at that point in time, the SEC took over. Clemson was beaten badly by a Tennessee team that missed a whole slew of good players, including the Biletnikoff winner, Hendon Hooker, who I agree. I don't agree with Greg McElroy a lot, but I will agree with him on this. It is tragic that Hendon Hooker was not on the Heisman podium. Yes. Should have been one of the best, easily one of the best 5 players in the country. But you look at that. Georgia comes from behind by 14 points behind, and Kirby Smart out-coached Ryan Day, and Stetson Bennett, for all the stuff that people can say about him, and all the criticism, and there's plenty of it. Stetson Bennett did what Stetson Bennett does, which is in the fourth quarter, made all the right plays and all the right moves and dominated Ohio State. 18-3, they outscored them in the fourth quarter. Then you look at even Mississippi State with, playing Illinois, which is a really good team, or LSU playing a Purdue team that made the championship game in the Big Ten. And look at that, 63-7. Oh my gosh. But the SEC, when it came time to play, really, really came through. But you know what? The greatest thing about all this was, everybody talks about the great weekend for the college football playoff. The great thing for college football was what happened in the Cotton Bowl when Tulane scored that upset over Southern Cal, a Southern Cal team that was a double-digit favorite. I forget what it was. I think it was 13.5, the point favorite. But here they go into there, and what happens? Holy cow. Little old Tulane, a school that's had 18 Rhodes Scholars, 155 Fulbright Scholars, a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, all the academic accolades you can think of, they've got them. They've won 261 games since 1960. Southern Cal has won 509. And lo and behold, look what happens there. Little old Tulane University.
Friends, hold those thoughts. This is a charter member of the Southeastern Conference. So look, we're going to be right back. Hold those thoughts. Hold that line, Tulane Greenway, with Franz Beard after this.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com, having a great discussion about college football and DeMar Hamlin. Want to make sure everybody knows that, and this was brought up to us by one of our regular listeners and viewers, Dr. Clarence Beeks in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, said, make sure, because that was not a malicious hit. We said that, but just make sure everybody hears it again. That was just a regular hit. We were just talking about targeting in the general picture, but nobody ever definitely was saying that was a malicious hit last night. That was just a clean hit, just like when, Chris Gaines was tackled by Chucky Mullins in October of '89. That's just showing what can happen. But Dr. Beeks also pointed out that it was just a miracle, and that medical staff reacted so quickly and got out there on the field, and that very likely saved this young man's life. I mean, that picture of him with his mother right before the game, he's only 24 years old. I got a son 24. I got one 22. So I got a 26-year-old daughter and 34. So trust me, I can't imagine what she's going through. And I have put them in my prayers immediately and will continue to. Targeting is one thing. And I don't think, we saw some plays yesterday, like in the Tulane Southern Cal game. Speaking of that, Franz. And I'll tell you what, Franz, I'm a stat junkie. ADD and OCD, it helps, man. But you just pointed that out. And I'm drinking my Red River Roast mocha latte with dark chocolate in here, man. I'm a little bit bouncing off the walls, but it's okay. but Franz, I'm telling you, I was watching that last night, and that's scary. And somebody on one of my text threads put out there, who I've known for 40 years, that the last player to die in an NFL game, I believe, was 1971. And I believe it was from a heart attack. I'm not positive,
Yeah,
but
was.
yeah.
Was.
So it's been, but this is just a tough situation. And, I wish, and I'm glad that those players surrounded him. People don't need to see that. I'm glad they did that. And they formed a circle of prayer. And that was a powerful to watch that. That's not symbolic. That's real. Okay. And I will say this, going back to this Southern Cal Tulane game, at the end, that Southern Cal player, they didn't call targeting. And I mean, he lowered his head, but it wasn't, I didn't think, malicious intent. They got the call right. The way Tulane won, and our good friend Frank Duffy, Mr. LSU Tiger, go Tigers, and Frank is listening right now down in Atlanta. He grew up as a ball boy for the Tulane Green Wave. Still goes to a lot of Tulane games as well as LSU. I can't imagine. I was texting him during the game. He was doing backflips. And I think about lots of Tulane fans that I've known over the years, a charter member of the SEC. Yeah. But Southern Cal has won twice as many games in the last, since they got out of the SEC.
2 years.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable scene down there at the Cotton Bowl.
It really was. And you look at how they won it. That final drive, talk about gutsy. Michael Pratt set the standard for toughness and for grit on that drive. He got sacked twice. He takes off running on a 4th and 6 and somehow or another squeezes an extra yard out of it and gets a first down to keep that drive going. My goodness, what an effort by that young man. I was just so impressed by. And here's Willie Fritz, a guy who played Division II football. Somebody made a comment I read yesterday that Lincoln Riley became a head coach at age 33. So did Willie Fritz. Lincoln Riley became the head coach at Oklahoma. Willie Fritz at Blinn Junior College down in Texas, the same school that Cam Newton came to, and prevented Florida from carrying on the dynasty here. But that's another story altogether. But here's a guy who's started out at Blinn Junior College, then Central Missouri State for a number of years, Sam Houston State, Georgia Southern, Tulane. And you saw in this game why every time we have coaches, shall we say given their wonderful retirement packages, 21.7 million at Auburn, 15 million at Auburn, 12 million at Florida, and on and on and on. All these guys who never have to work again. Lord, let me come back if there's reincarnation. Let me come back as a head football coach at a major college and get fired. But here's Willie Fritz, who just outcoaches the boy genius, and he really did. That game was it was a tremendous tribute to the toughness of these Tulane kids, but it also was a real tribute to Willie Fritz. He flat out outcoached a coach that had every kind of weapon player. I guarantee you there aren't two players on Tulane that would have even gotten a sniff from Southern Cal and from Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, most of the Tulane players are 2-star and 3-star. Getting a good 3-star at Tulane, it's like, what's that old saying? 30 is the new, 30 to a
50.
70-year-old. 30 is the new 20 to a 70-year-old man.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I'll tell you what. You're right about Tulane. I mean, they were a charter member of the SEC, and you do know Sewanee, Georgia Tech, and Tulane all, if they wanted to, could come back to the SEC. Friends, now I don't see that happening, but I just don't see that happening. But Willie Fritz is a great story, and Lincoln Riley, as great of an offensive mind as he has, he better get serious about defense. And we're going to get into this in a minute when Jordan Hill comes on 24/7 Sports, who covers the Georgia Bulldogs for us. I want to ask him some stuff about Stetson Bennett and Caleb Williams. Nothing against Caleb Williams, who transferred from Oklahoma. But, Lincoln Riley, he reminds me a lot of Cliff Kingsbury, wearing the long sleeve T-shirt, just kind of, I'm so cool. Well, how many championships you got? And then you see Kirby Smart. I mean, Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp. Can you imagine those discussions they have about defense? There's a lot going on. Now, real quick, I just want to tease everybody, friends. I saw it. It came up on my screen here. Honk. If you shed a tear for the Big Ten. This is raw, red meat dripping with content. Friends, as they say down in the muck, Immokalee, Pahokee, Clewiston, Florida, you know what I'm talking about. Elaborate.
Well, a funny thing happened on the way to the Big Ten having its greatest moment in history. And, Kevin Warren had calluses on his shoulders from patting himself on the back for stealing Southern Cal and UCLA to create the greatest logistical nightmare that has ever been known to college sports. I mean, Can you imagine, the women's volleyball team from Southern Cal playing an 8 p.m. match in Rutgers? Oh my gosh, talk about riveting. Oh my goodness. Or wait till UCLA plays Northwestern or Michigan State in late November, and the winds are blowing and the snow is piling up, and these Southern Cal guys who, just 2 days ago were thinking about, boy, I wish this season would get over so I could go surfing again. All of a sudden they're wondering, goodness, do we have a doctor that understands frostbite? Yeah. But you look at this. Here they were poised for everything to happen, and then splat. Holy cow. There's the drool from Kevin Warren, thinking about Michigan and Ohio State creating a national championship game, and both of them come close, but not close enough, and they lose. I mean, this was the worst possible scenario. The Big Ten, couldn't have dreamed up something this bad. And granted, if Cameron Rising doesn't get hurt yesterday, I'm not so sure Utah doesn't knock off Penn State too. And you got the top three, the only three decent teams in the entire Big Ten get whooped.
Yeah. Well, let's say this. Has anyone brought this up? We haven't yet on this program. You had the SEC runner-up, LSU, against the Big Ten runner-up, Purdue, playing in a bowl game yesterday. And what was the final score? LSU 63, Purdue 7. I mean, my God, how many times do you have to be hit on the head to realize the SEC it's definitely the best conference. Now, some of our lower tier teams didn't. I mean, look, I don't want to say the lower tier, but the bowls that, not the bigger bowls, they didn't do well. Ole Miss has got to stop the hemorrhaging. Okay. But look, let's do this. We're going to talk about it after this. Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, covering the Georgia Bulldogs, is on with us. And I know you got a tight window this morning. We got a few minutes. We'll take a break and come back and finish more. But Jordan, Franz Beard and I were watching on the Color TV Saturday night that game against Georgia and Ohio State. And, you and I talked about it. I just felt like Ohio State would come out with the hair on fire, probably jump on top early, and Georgia would storm back. But I didn't think it would take till the last play of the game. But Ohio State had been told for a month they weren't any good. Georgia, Kirby and the staff were trying to guard against too much praise. And, man, college football, we've never had back-to-back semifinal games anywhere close to this. I know you didn't like it as a Georgia guy, the Georgia fans, it drove them crazy. But as a fan, that's about as good as you can ask for, isn't it?
Oh, excellent game. And yeah, I mean, it was a case where Georgia's defensive backs were chasing Marvin Harrison Jr. and those receivers all night. And, you hate to do what if, but I do think it would have been different if Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't get hurt. But I say that, and also credit to Georgia. They got down 2 touchdowns. I mean, I know I was not alone on this. When they kicked that field goal to go down 11 early in the fourth quarter, I said it on Twitter. I said, what are they doing? Why are you kicking a field goal? You're not going to get these stops. They did. They rose to the occasion. Stetson Bennett did not have a good game. I saw people on Twitter trying to argue he had a better game than C.J. Stroud, and that is not the case. But excellent fourth quarter. Had a tremendous fourth quarter where another situation, I mean, it's a lot like the Missouri game in the fact that it was not a good overall game from Stetson. But, I mean, if he does not play that well in the fourth quarter, Georgia's not playing right now. Georgia gets beat by Ohio State. He made the plays when they had to have them. Excellent drive. I think he went 5 for 5 on the scoring drive when they hit A.D. Mitchell for the go-ahead score. That's one of those situations. I think you kind of tell listening to Kirby Smart, especially after the game and the post game, that they really got lucky in the fact they were able to win that game. And I say that and say they made all the plays they had to make, but the margin for error was almost non-existent in that game. And credit to the team for finding a way to win because it looked bleak. And, Ohio State, I had said it going into that game, I wasn't going to be shocked if Ohio State won just because they have a ton of talent. And they did pretty much everything you could do but win the game. And I really do feel for those players because, man, they played their hearts out in that game.
They really did. I got to ask you this question. We got a few minutes before we go to the break. Caleb Williams won the Heisman. He had the stats, 47 touchdowns, not a whole lot of interceptions. Stetson Bennett didn't have those kind of stats, but Caleb Williams played Utah twice, did not win either game. I'm not saying he can't do it by himself, but he's the Heisman Trophy winner. It was a beauty contest. Stetson Bennett is the working man's Heisman winner. That's my opinion. He is Larry the Cable Guy. He's just everybody's candidate. He should have won the damn Heisman Trophy because he's the best player in terms of making his team better and getting everybody set up right. Caleb Williams, I think he's going to have a great pro career. Put that aside. The Heisman's not about the guy with the best NFL future. It's about the best college football player. Stetson Bennett in that fourth quarter, he earned himself a spot at the top or near the top of Georgia football legend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't really even waste brain capacity thinking about the Heisman because there's
Sorry.
so many. No, you're good. But I mean, it's not you, Rob. I mean, I go back like Ndamukong Suh should have won the Heisman. He was up for it.
Yes.
It's just you get lost in trying to debate who should have won what. And but I mean, I think Stetson, and I wrote about this that week he was going to New York. He deserved to be there. I know his overall stats weren't eye-popping, but you looked at how few times they threw in the fourth quarter and how he played in the biggest games. I mean, I think he deserved the trip. And, I do think Stetson's the kind of guy, if you had come to him and said, hey, I'm from the future, you're going to go to the Heisman Trophy ceremony, but you're not going to win it, but you are going to win back-to-back national titles. Would you take it? I think he'd say, yeah, I'm going to take it. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things I totally get. I understand people's frustrations when it comes to the Heisman, but I think the fact Stetson got to go at all, I do think meant a lot to him. And again, I think he would take solace if they're able to win this game on Monday. I think he'd say, you know what, I'm okay with the way that played out.
Yeah, I mean, it all started. We're about to go to a break, but back in '97 when Charles Woodson was moved ahead of Peyton Manning, that's the one that really made the Heisman almost, like who cares anymore? And then there have been some dominant Heisman Trophy winners since then, like Cam Newton, where you could fall in from Mars and you would know he was the best player in college football. But if you look at this one, I'm just saying Stetson Bennett, he is the guy who left, came back, was told again, you're fourth or fifth team, and he hung in there and he fought and he found excuses to win. We're going to find excuses to talk Georgia football ain't hard right after this with Jordan Hill 24/7 Sports, Franz Beard on Sidelines.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959, right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
Okay, Rob Browne back here with Jordan Hill 24/7 Sports, Georgia, and Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com, and just having a lot of fun. And Franz, I know you've if you're able to hear all this, talking about the Heisman Trophy and all that aside, Stetson's a hell of a football player, and Georgia's a hell of a team. What I know you've got questions for Jordan, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, the thing that I need to ask Jordan is this: because Georgia really hasn't had any close ball games this year, obviously the way they won against Ohio State, it has to make every Georgia fan proud. But it also raises one question: is this, how much of an emotional toll did that take on them because they had not had any close ball games? And sometimes a close ball game can spur you on to great things, or it can drain you. And I guess the question going forward is, the way this game played out, did it drain Georgia emotionally? Because you got TCU, which won another game the way they always win it, which is coming down to the last play. They're accustomed to this. Is Georgia going to recover emotionally from this ball game? Because I think that's the only real question. I think physically they've got the better team to play TCU, but how will they be emotionally after the first really tough ball game they've had? Now, there's two ways to go with it. Either they go to new heights and say, holy cow, look what we can do even when we have a bad day, or does it drain them?
No, I mean, I think they're going to be okay. And they did have one other game this year that was close, and it was Missouri, which back on October 1st, I mean, they did everything but lose that game, and had to rally back and found a way. And you could kind of tell after that game, Kirby Smart was really proud of his players and talked about the composure they showed and being able to play through that. And I don't think it was quite as much as far as Kirby feeling that way after that Ohio State game, just because, I think that they were in a situation where, I think everybody, and I talked to a bunch of the beat writers when we were walking down the locker room, and I just asked them, I said, did you guys think he was going to make that kick? And it wasn't quite unanimous, but a bunch of us, and myself included, I thought that Noah Huggles was going to hit that field goal. And, I think it's a situation where Georgia sort of sees that they were on the brink of getting put out. And I think that it's a team that understands how talented it is. And you look at the opening line, I don't know how much it's moved in the last day or so, but Georgia's like a 13-point favorite, which I think is the highest line in a national championship game since the BCS era was first introduced. So, I think they're going to be okay as far as moving on from that game. I think they understood that Ohio State was really talented. I don't think it was necessarily a situation like it was, honestly, in that Missouri game where I think they kind of got caught flat-footed. I think they kind of came into that game. Remember, that was coming off of Missouri giving the game to Auburn. I've never seen anything in the world like that Auburn-Missouri game. And I think they kind of came in a little cocky playing that game on the road, and I think it woke up a bunch of guys. And I don't think that's necessarily the case as far as when it comes to this Ohio State win.
Yeah, and okay, Jordan, looking at Georgia beginning of the season, every time they were put on the national stage, the Oregon game, the Tennessee game, the LSU game for the SEC championship, Georgia averaged scoring 42 points in each of those three games. You look at Ohio State, gave up 45 to Michigan at home, and what was it, 48 or 42? No, 42 to Georgia. Again, they had a lot of fans there, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, yeah, and it was kind of hard to differentiate between the Ohio State Red and the Georgia Red. But, yeah, they traveled well, and I do think that was kind of a situation, too, where I think some Georgia fans were hedging their bets and saying, well, we'll save our money from the Peach Bowl and maybe go to L.A. And almost didn't work out for them, but the fans who did that, I mean, it is going to pay off as far as getting to go to the national title game.
Well, it was sold out at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, correct?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, it was a packed house.
Yeah, I mean, it was loud. But I'm with friends looking at TCU. When you have a team like them that's won so many games, having to come from behind, you just believe that you're going to win every game. I mean, even the Kansas State game had to go to overtime. And the more of those close games you win, I think that pulls you together and makes you a much closer team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think that, credit to TCU, because I always go through before the season and predict all the, final records. And I had TCU like 3-9, and that was no disrespect because I think Sonny Dykes is a really good coach even before this year. But I was looking at that Big 12 and being like, man, who is gonna be in the bottom, And I thought West Virginia would be a lot better with JT Daniels. I thought Kansas would take steps forward, which they did with Lance Leipold. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to put TCU here. I mean, what a job that Sonny Dykes has done. You think about his career was almost derailed by things not going well at Cal. He kind of starts over at SMU. They're a dangerous team. I mean, they come in and they know they're the underdog, and they're going to give Georgia different looks. They got a 3-3-5 defense, which Georgia hasn't faced a ton. I think it's going to be a really fun ball game. I'm not convinced that this thing's just going to be Georgia can write their score.
Of all the teams Georgia's played this year, TCU reminds you of who?
I haven't looked at them a ton. I mean, the thing that jumps out to me is their defense is what Mississippi State runs. And I'm going to try to go back and watch that Georgia-Mississippi State game just to see how Georgia tried to attack that defense. But I'd be lying if I told you that I've watched a bunch of TCU films since the matchup was set on Saturday night. There's been a lot going on. And but, yeah, the defense is the thing that sticks out to me is they run the same scheme that Mississippi State did. And looking forward to going back and looking at that and seeing how Georgia attacked it when they played in November.
Yeah. Friends Beard. I know you got questions for Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports on Georgia.
Yeah, I think Georgia was impressive in that even giving up 41 points. Obviously, this was not Georgia's finest defensive hour, but they made enough stuff. They made the stops in the fourth quarter when it counted. That's what's important. Forget what happened the first three quarters. The game was played and won in the fourth quarter, and that's when Georgia was at its best. I think, coming into this next ball game, how do you regroup defensively from a game when all of a sudden you've played in the last two ball games. Georgia's given up, I think it was something like 800 or 900 yards passing. So how do you regroup your defense for a team that spreads the ball around the way TCU does? TCU is a team that you can't really say, okay, if we take this guy out of the game, so if our defense can take this guy out of the game, okay, we can, we can beat them. They're, it's like everybody this year with Florida. The thought was okay, if we take Ricky Pearsall out of the game, Florida can't throw the football. And it was pretty much it was a pretty good strategy, if you ask me. But there's nobody on the TCU. The only guy you got to take out of the ball game that matters with him is Max Duggan. And if you can't, they spread the ball around so much, there isn't one guy other than the quarterback that you can stop. So how did you rally your defense after this game to face a team like TCU?
Well, I think it's more of just understanding that this for all the marbles, and that these guys need to step up. And Georgia's secondary struggled a good bit, and I think it's across the board. I've been really critical of Keely Ringo, but it was not just Keely that had some issues on Saturday night. Kamari Laster, Malachi Starks, I think he played like a freshman. Which, I mean, again, that's the first time he was in a stage like that. But too, when you look at the Georgia defense as a whole, they had to rely on a lot of young guys because of injury. Jalen Walker is a true freshman. Michael Williams, who's played a lot already, he's a true freshman. I mean, they had to rely on guys, especially as guys got banged up in that game. And, I think the only way you kind of rallied those guys together is to let them know this is it. This is a chance to kind of write the history book. And people are, on the whole, not going to remember how bad the defense played in these last few games if they wind up walking away with another championship. It's going to be a challenge, and I think they understand TCU's dangerous, but I think it comes down to just as simple as it's all on the line here, and you got to play your best if you guys want to win back-to-back.
One more question before we let you go. This Georgia team, and France and I were talking before the show this morning, is there really a great team out there? So this year compared to last year, and I'll ask you, how similar is this Georgia team at this point in the season compared to the exact same point they were last year going into the rematch with Alabama for the national championship?
Well, I think we have more questions about the defense this go around than we would last year. And, I thought on the whole, this defense had played well, and they've just gotten picked apart a little bit by two, I think, pretty good passing offenses the last two games with LSU and Ohio State as well. And then on the other side, I mean, I think this offense is better than last year's. And I thought they played really well against Ohio State. Stetson had a couple mistakes, but when they had to have it, they not only got it done, but they moved the ball around well. And I thought that they did a good job of not just leaning on one guy. Brock Bowers didn't do a ton in that game. But he did enough to help Georgia move on to the championship game.
Yeah, well, it's going to be exciting. I know you've got a tight windows, and there's a lot going on getting ready for the national championship game this year with TCU. But, man, Georgia does this, Jordan, and I'm sure that's been brought up to Stetson Bennett. I mean, of course, there's only other quarterback I can think of that's won back-to-back is, from Alabama. Did it back in 2011 and 2012. And that was it. And, if you do it, you're in rare company. And, I'm with you. I think Stetson would rather have back-to-back national championships as a starting quarterback, than he would the Heisman. But, it's an incredible atmosphere. And I think college football needed these finishes like we saw in a lot of these other bowl games. But Jordan, let people know how they can follow you, all the great work you're doing, and your Twitter handle, because, man, you put out a lot of good stuff on Twitter. You got press conferences, sound, everything. So keep it up. We love it, and we love having you on this show.
Appreciate it. Yeah, at Jordan Davis Hill on Twitter, at Dawgs247 as well, and then Dawgs247.com. Got all kinds of stuff going on this week. We'll be flying out to LA on Thursday. But before that, Rob, Georgia, Auburn men's basketball tomorrow night. So, I mean, it's as much as people think it's all about the national title, big deal, obviously, but got men's basketball as well. So, exciting time, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, Mike White has definitely got Georgia playing better, and Bruce Pearl's got his work cut out. No Walker Kessler, no Jabari Smith, and that it should be better. You remember the last year that Auburn-Georgia game over in Athens went down literally to the last basket, and Auburn won the SEC, and I think that was right after Auburn had been named the number 1 team in the country. There are no nights off in this league, but Jordan Hill, thank you, 24/7 Sports, for covering Georgia, and good luck. Look forward to talking with you next week. Hopefully, y'all are going to win it all.
We shall see. Appreciate you guys.
All right, you bet. All right, Franz Beard, a lot talking, talking about this Georgia TCU matchup, and then, the Big Ten. I want to go back to this is a great piece, and I can't read it during the show, but it's up there. Honk if you shed a tear for the Big Ten. And wow, the SEC, I think the second best league this year, I thought during the regular season, was the Big 12. And TCU beats Michigan. I don't know how good Michigan is and Ohio State is, because I don't know how good the Big Ten is. I know that the division, the Western division that Purdue's in, compared to the East that Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State are in, it's not even close. There's nothing. The SEC East is 10 times better than that, and they're considered to be the other division in the SEC.
Well, I look at it like this. I think Vanderbilt could beat any team in the Big Ten West. I think and we look at Vanderbilt as our bottom feeder, and Vanderbilt could beat any team. I think Florida could beat any team in the Big Ten West. And Florida was not good this year. Florida was good enough to play everybody but Georgia well. And I skipped what happened in the bowl game because with all the opt-outs and transfers and everything. That was a shell. Florida had 52 scholarship players for that ball game. So forget that. But at full strength, I think Florida beats every team in the Big Ten West. And could have been, let's face it, Florida, the only team Florida couldn't have beaten was Georgia, but Florida was good enough to win all the other games. And that's the secret of what the SEC is, Rob, is the SEC every team in the SEC has good football players. It's just that the teams at the top have more good football players than the teams at the bottom. I've had this theory for years that every team in the SEC, every team in college football has 22 good football players.
Yeah.
But in the SEC, you better have 33 to 40 if you're going to win 5 or 6 ball games. You better have that many. You better have 40 to 50 if you're going to win as many as 8. But the teams that win 10, 11, 12 games or more, they all have more than 50 good football players, which means that, in the case of Georgia, next man up. Nolan Smith goes down with an injury. Does the Georgia defense miss a beat? Not really. It's just next man up. Alabama goes into the Sugar Bowl. A whole slew of receivers have departed. A starting offensive lineman who started for 2 years at left guard, Cohen, has departed. All these guys have quit. So what does Alabama do? They go in there and take on the Big 12 champion, K-State, and bitch slap them.
Yeah.
And it was 45-25. But if Nick had wanted to, Nick could have scored another 3 touchdowns. It could have been
hold those thoughts. We're going to be right back talking more about it. We got Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com. Rob Browne here, Sidelines. Hour number 2 up next.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne here. Hour number 2 coming up. Sidelines on this Tuesday. College football and basketball blitz. Lots to talk about, and we are getting after it. I look at the Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12, Big 12, SEC. Then you got the Sun Belt. You got the AAC, Conference USA. You know, you look at some of these other conferences. Then you look at Division I AA, North Dakota State, South Dakota State. They're going to play for the national championship, I think, coming up January 5th or 6th. That'll be a fun game to watch. Friends, I got to ask you a question here. This was brought up, and we're going to get into it in just a few minutes, but it's something to think about. Billy Roberts, who will join us here momentarily, last week said if these big schools don't want to go to a bowl game because they're 7-5 or 6-6, why not invite the smaller schools to these bowl games? Maybe even take a team that's 4-8 or 5-7, which if there are not enough teams to fill out the 41 bowls, they can dip down and take teams with sub 500 records. But you'd get people that appreciate the opportunity to go to a bowl game and actually want to be there. And you get the coaching staff selfishly loves the extra 20 days of practice that you get for a bowl, because bowl practice, you're getting to develop a lot of young players. I think it would be a fun thing to watch going forward.
Well, the way it's set up now, you know, you and I have talked about this before, but nothing disturbs me quite like this idea of, well, I'm going to prepare for the NFL. Yeah. Right. 2 weeks are going to make a difference in your life to prepare for the NFL. No, what you're saying, what you're really saying, let me translate it into real English. Look, my agent wants to give me a Mercedes-Benz because he's promised that I'm going to be a first-round draft pick. So I'm opting out of the bowl game and saying, you know, up yours to all the people that helped me get to a point where I could be drafted. I'm going to say up yours. And I'm going to drive my Mercedes-Benz. And while you're out there sweating and knocking heads in practice to scramble to have enough players to play in a bowl game, and you may get your asses kicked because of my absence, well, I'll be driving my Mercedes and listening to the game on Sirius XM as I drive to the beach.
Well, you know what? You think about it. These guys that like Keyshawn Boutte, he showed himself to be what he is, a spoiled brat. In the first game of the season, when Florida State beat LSU in the Superdome, he removed all references to LSU from his social media accounts. Well, good. I would have sent that guy packing then. I don't like it when people say, well, he's young, he's going to say stuff. No, he's not a good teammate. I don't want that guy anywhere near my locker room. And all these players, for Penn State and different schools that quit using the term opt out, man. These guys on ESPN, man, can they not say anything honest and be critical of anybody? I mean, my God, who dresses these guys? These pants they wear with no socks that come up to their, halfway up the ankle. These are guys dressing like this. Holy cow. I'm just saying, what's going on here? I mean, you need to call these guys out. All these guys on ESPN for walking away from their teammates. I mean, Tim Tebow played a 4th year. He could have left. Cam Newton played 4 years. Bo Jackson played all 4 years. Herschel regrettably signed that contract, and then when he said he wanted to stay in college, it was too late. But call out these guys that walk away from their teammates. They've all sacrificed. We know that. But, I mean, Jordan Rodgers and Tim Tebow, the guys I was watching, the game day crowd out there at the Rose Bowl, Desmond Howard, he's always laughing. Call these guys out and say, man, if I was on that team and my starting running back, and I'm an offensive lineman, let's say, and I've busted my butt for the last 4 years or 5 years blocking for that guy, and he's just going to leave and doesn't care if we win the game or not, I don't want that guy around. I mean, people, wake up and get your heads out of the sand and start calling these guys, these opt-outs, calling them what they are. They're quitters. They are quitters. What if you were a part of a legal defense team going to the trial of your life, trial of the century, going before the United States Supreme Court, and one of the 3 lawyers on your deal said, I'm opting out. I'm going to the beach with my new girlfriend. I'll see y'all. Good luck. That's what that would feel like. Oh, and then pretty soon where we're going to go, folks, we're going to have a guy, we're going to start having these athletes bypass their college careers and spend 3 years with a trainer in a bubble with cupcakes and puppies so they can, not be stressed out because they're worried about their career. Hey, man, wait till you have some kids, 3 or 4 kids, whatever. You get married. It ain't all about you. It's about your family and about your wife as a man. Man up. Strap it up. Strap it on. Get up early in the morning. If it's cold outside and there's frost all over the windows, what men do, they go out there and they start their cars and trucks, get the defrost on, scrape off the windows. They take care of the women, the people around them. If you're a quarterback, you're a teammate. You don't just walk off the job. Billy Roberts, LaGrange, Georgia. Plow them up, Grangers. Auburn grad. Plow them up, Grangers. One of the smartest men. We got Franz Beard up here right now, along with Frank Duffy, perhaps the world's most interesting duo of man.
Indeed.
Billy Roberts is checking in with us from Atlanta right now. And I know Franz just texted me and said, you sound like that old guy out in his front yard yelling at the clouds. Get out of here. But I just wish guys would stay to the course and stay with their teams. And we have got to get out of this. People are afraid to say the truth anymore. For goodness sakes, man, call it like it is. This is symptomatic of our society. It's okay to quit. I can tell you one thing. Next time you're out in a bar, a restaurant, you see a man in uniform, a veteran, buy him around, buy his dinner, pat him on the back, shake their hand, look him in the eye and say, thank you, because I know you didn't opt out. Billy Roberts. It's like the McLaughlin report. You're wrong. Are you right?
Rob, we've talked about this before. This is the logical conclusion of the participation trophy era where they've diluted winning. We can't have winners and losers. Everybody's got to feel good about themselves. So
yeah.
if winning has been cheapened, opting out has no consequences, because there's no benefit to being a winner. There's no embarrassment to being a loser. So if somebody opts out and then stands around on the sidelines to cheer their teammates on, they should be humiliated and should be called out. And the halftime reporter should go over there and go, what are you doing? If the coach isn't having that conversation, where's the ESPN halftime reporter saying, why are you here?
Yeah.
I agree with you, but this goes all the way back to the feminization of little league sports, where moms are unfortunately taking their kid, because they're probably single parent, to baseball, and then they sit there and go, "Oh, this is terrible. Some kids are losing and they're crying when they lose, and we got to do something about this. Let's give everybody a trophy. Let's not have a winner." And now to get into law school, they're doing away with the LSAT score,
No,
and
you got to be kidding me.
yeah, they're the top law schools are saying, "Now we don't really have a need for that anymore. We're just going to have other mechanisms to decide who gets in and who doesn't in law school, because a score like that on a standardized test is too black and white. We need some subjectivity. We need to blur the lines a little bit." So you got that going on also. I don't want to be represented in court by somebody who didn't take the LSAT test. I don't know about you. I want a guy that's going to bite somebody's leg off.
My cousin Vinny, graduate of a night, went to law school, took him 12 years at night school. And I lived I was an assistant sports editor in Savannah at the News Press. And we had a football coach, an assistant football coach at Savannah High School, who was moonlighting by going to a night law school. And then he hung out his shingle, and of course he hit it lucky, because a couple people came who'd been mangled in car accidents, and he hit it lucky, had a big settlement, and said, "What am I doing this for? Why am I coaching football? Why am I a lawyer?" So he opted. It's talking about opt-outs. He opted out. But you're so right. We live in a society where we have made it easy to walk away. It's kind of like, you look at today, we have restaurants closing here in Gainesville because they can't find enough workers. You're telling me 63,000 students on campus who can't, of which 40,000 can't afford to go to school, and you can't get people to come work at your restaurant, to help pay, to pay for tuition and stuff like that, get the money to help out. But that's what's going on in our society.
Well,
Gainesville's a microcosm of what's going on.
I'll tell you a great story to emphasize that point. So Rob and I were roommates at Auburn, and my college job was, I was a waiter and bartender at the country club in Auburn, Saugahatchee Country Club. And that job was so coveted and in such demand that one of my older fraternity brothers had gifted it to me upon his graduation. He took me out to meet the manager and goes, "This is your new guy. I'm graduating on Saturday from Auburn, and this guy's going to take over." Then they promptly said, "Oh, you can't leave in the summer. If you leave, you're not going to have the job when you come back in the fall. So this is like a 12-month-a-year commitment. We have a bunch of wedding receptions in the summer. You'll make a lot of money. You'll meet a lot of girls, but you can't leave and go home for the summer if you want this job." And I'm like, done. So you're exactly right. I mean, not so long ago, a waiter or bartender job in a college town was coveted. You could make some tips, you could make money, and you didn't give that job up very easily. Now, they have to beg people to take a job like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. And friends, look, I love it, man, because we're going to tell you what we think Sidelines is. We're not soft. We're not going to skirt the issues. And I'm telling you right now, Billy's right. Friends, you know it. I know it. And, if we think it's okay to give everybody a trophy, we're wrong. Trophies, you go in a lot of these kids' rooms nowadays, they got 50 trophies up there. I've got some trophies, winning canoe races and first or second place in a 5K or whatever like that. I earned those things. I didn't, we don't in track and field, you don't give trophies to people or ribbons to people unless they're in the top 5. And the problem that I see, I would love it if they would, it's all about, they just, you got to consider the money they're making. Again, what about the other guys on that team? They could get hurt. You may be an engineering major at Florida, friends, or Georgia or Auburn, and you could get hurt and get a concussion and not be able to finish college. I mean, we have become, we've made it acceptable to be selfish is what we have done. And I'm telling you what, you can say, and I have had enough of people going, look, that's just the way it is now. You can't coach them tough. You can't coach them hard. Yeah, you can. And I'm going to tell you right now, look at Kirby Smart. He coaches those guys. They're tough. Will Muschamp. You think Will Muschamp would accept some excuse, somebody for a 6 a.m. workout at 5:15 going, I'm feeling a little under the weather, I can't make it. Probably because you're hungover. You'd really be in trouble. We have got to bring back alpha male culture to this society, because just how many times do we have to hear? And by the way, if you're a 21, 22-year-old kid and you hit it big, you're under no contractual obligation to pay for everybody in your family and extended family, 7th and 8th cousins twice removed. Are you? Anyone? Hell no, you're not. What is with the deal with all these people that think they're just going to pull up to the table and you're going to give them stuff? Go earn your own way in life. And that's the thing. But it starts in the recruiting process when you go in the living room and there's, when you go in the living room and there's 15 or 20 people in there, pastors and relatives and whatever like that, with their hands out. That's what they're doing. This is where it all started. I'm telling you right now, the guys that they've quit. I don't want them to get hurt. I want them to make a lot of money, but also know that they're part of a team. I'm part of a team. My team at work, my team on this show, my team, my family. Good gosh. I heard it put best after the crucifixion. What if the 11 apostles had decided they were scared, and Matthew didn't go to the southern coast of India, and St. Andrew didn't go to the British Isles? What if they were too scared to go out and do that? Where would we be today? What if they'd have opted out? I mean, come on. God bless America, land of the free. I employed our Turbo America.
I'm not sure. Was it Peter that came to America, or was it John? I can't remember, but it was one of them. Here we live. Our society has gotten to a point, and I don't begrudge kids getting money these days and times to play college football. It is a brutal game. I wrote about it today.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge them that. It's kind of like this. Do we ever get mad at the computer engineering whiz that all of a sudden Apple says, hey, you're so smart, we'll give you $1 million to come work for us? And it happens. That kind of stuff happens. Tim Cook, who is an Auburn grad, and you guys are Auburn guys, regularly checks what's going on at Auburn and hires people before they have graduated and says, come on, work with me. I'll give you $1 bazillion bonus just to sign on. We don't begrudge them. We say, oh gosh, look how smart they are. But when a football player gets some money, we say, oh, you can't do that. You're getting a scholarship. Well, hey,
France, hold that thought, because I'm not begrudging anybody. I want them to make money, but just play through your commitment that you have. We'll be right back to talk about it after this.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
Rob Browne back here on this Tuesday college football basketball blitz. Franz Beard, GatorBetMedia.com down in Gainesville, Florida. Billy Roberts over in Atlanta, native of LaGrange. Plow them up, Grangers. Plow them up. There you go. But I want to say something my wife Audrey said, and producer, and Mildred over here said during the break. Apple is offering you that job, just like the big 4 accounting firms will gobble you up, do an internship, and you sign something, but it's contingent upon you graduating and getting your degree. And all we're saying, friends, I want to go back to where you were before we went to the break. I'm not against people making money. I am to the right of Ronald Reagan. I want people to, capitalism works. Socialism, Mark, it fails. You have to keep people in at gunpoint and build walls and fences to keep them in it. It's the best example is Franz or Billy, you go to college and you study hard, you make a 4.0 your first semester. Your roommate is Otis Campbell, the town drunk, goes out every night and gets a 1.0. Well, you come home at Christmas break and your parents are out at dinner celebrating your 4.0, but you get a letter from whatever university you are, and they say, well, you had a 4.0, your roommate had a 1.0, but what we're going to do is we're going to combine the 4.0 and the 1.0, get a 5.0, divide it by 2, and that's a 2.5. Wait a minute, that's not fair. Well, that's socialism. That's where you go with that. You're part of a team. You have worked with those guys. You came in, you got a scholarship. They need to put teeth in these scholarships and stop allowing these people to walk away. Yeah, we're not against you. Here's what I would say. I'm not against these guys making money, and I wouldn't be so upset if we didn't have guys quitting. But, and I don't know if Bryce Young, who's making several $1 million in NIL money, had it in his contract, hey, you need to play in that bowl game. And they got a Lloyds of London policy and whatever like that. But we can't go around being scared all the time.
Well, you're right about putting teeth in the scholarship. And here's the thing is the NCAA could put some teeth into, for example, into transfer portal by saying, if you quit on your team during the season, you will have to sit for an entire year.
Yeah.
The NCAA could do things. But of course, here I am saying the NCAA could do that when the NCAA is largely responsible for 90% of the problems that we have in college football and college sports today.
Yeah.
They've had Mark Emmert in charge, and he could, trust me, Punjab down at the convenience store knows more about running business than Mark Emmert does. And here is Mark Emmert, who has been in charge of a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, and he's not nearly as, even with all of his PhDs and everything, he's not nearly as smart as Punjab down at the convenience store.
Yeah,
Mark Emmert couldn't run a convenience store.
Yeah, well, bottom line is, you've got people that come here from all over the world, work their butts off, that want to be here, and they'll outwork you. You better watch out, because life is competitive. And I can tell you, Billy, what I see with making it okay for people to quit during the season. And what they're doing, they're quitting when things aren't going their way. They're running a 100-yard dash and they peel off 60 or 70 yards into it and say, oh, I rolled my ankle. Okay. What we're getting to the point of now is you get a guy that has a freshman year and he's good. And people say he's going to the league. He's going to be in the NFL or the NBA. Sophomore year, they have the sophomore slump. Let's give them that, which I don't agree with, but that's the excuse we hear. Their junior year, they'll play the first 3 or 4 games. They'll put out, and once the talking heads, Todd McShay, Mel Kiper, whatever, claim that they're going to be a big high pick, they'll just kind of they'll check out. Will Levis, are you kidding me? He didn't even play with his team. I bet he feels good. They got beat 21-0 in the bowl game. Kentucky did. I don't know what Will Levis's career is other than putting mayonnaise and coffee and eating whole bananas. That's what he's going to be known for. Hey, that's a great quarterback. Will Levis of Kentucky. He ate whole bananas and put mayonnaise in his coffee. Versus he hung in there. He fought. He didn't quit on his team. He went to that bowl game in a game that, quote, didn't matter, and he played a full 60. Man, listen, there are going to be no legends, no stories going forward if we keep allowing these prima donna narcissists to just quit and be celebrated for it, because 15 or 20 other people in their family are counting on that. Look, it's not your job. Sua sponte, that's Latin for of your own accord. You got to do it yourself. And it's not the job of the university to be the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. You know, you get a scholarship. It's a scholarship. It's a grant. And what about the 98.5% of the regular student body that has to pay back their student loan? They have to, they have to work. You try to get out of state tuition, okay, and you're trying to cut it by 60 or 70%. You got to work at most schools now 35 hours a week, and you got to make a certain amount of money. It's tough. You're a student athlete. You got everything. And again, spare me, please, spare me, Mr. Krabs and the smallest violin, of enough money to go buy a pizza and whatever. They get cost of attendance money. They're already getting stuff. And I dare to say, Billy and friends, if you're a star football player at a big football program, you probably get a free meal or two.
Nobody. Come on, Rob. Y'all went to Auburn. There has never been an Auburn booster that would bend a rule.
Never,
ever. Come on now.
No,
there has never been. Auburn is a paragon of virtue, and there has never been an Auburn booster that gave $100 handshake. Although today it's called $1,000 handshakes.
Or at Alabama. I mean, nobody ever, or Texas.
Alabama, come on. They win championships. How could they possibly?
They don't need to do that.
Break a rule.
Yeah, they're so good they don't need to do anything below the surface.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you could come here and win a championship, or you could go to Georgia and get $10,000 a game.
Yeah, I mean,
come on.
Exactly.
That ring, that's what you're out for. You want that ring. And your degree in sociology from the University of Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got to, we've got to put teeth in these scholarships. You're right. Billy, the portal. You quit during the season. Yeah. Look, here's the deal. We all know what a contract is, okay? You've got to fulfill your obligation. And we're allowing people to walk off the job. It's against the law, isn't it? If you drive by and there's a car accident and you don't stop to try to help somebody unless people are already there, you're supposed to do that.
Yep.
I mean, Billy, let's put some teeth in this conversation, more so than we've already got.
Well, it's it's a situation where, first of all, the guys that are opting out of the game, it's become like cool to be, I'm so good, I'm such a good prospect that I can't possibly, risk hurting myself. So, and then let's say an obvious first round guy, he's being advised by agents and, people that have his best interest. And they're saying, you can't risk tearing your knee up. But then you get the second and third tier of guys that are going to be lower round draft picks, but they want to elevate their image and their status. So they're going to opt out of the bowl game too, to pretend like they're a higher rated prospect than they probably really are. So it's like, instead of being humiliated and ashamed to opt out of the game, you're like, it kind of enhances your status. It's kind of like a sneaky way for you to pretend like you're a bigger prospect than you really are. So, there's some logic to it. I'm not saying that it's right, but there's rational behavior going on by people that are delusional about where they are in the food chain. But when agents are involved and they're listening to people giving them advice, because there's going to be, some money to be made by giving advice out to an impressionable 20-year-old. you're gonna get people making dumb decisions because they're listening to the wrong people.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Billy.
think a head coach who's a good guy that appreciates the effort that the kid put out, would probably advise a certain guy, hey, you probably don't want to hurt yourself. You've served us well. But that would be like the one guy, because he's not going to benefit from your participation much longer. And if he's willing to put his selfish interests aside to go win a bowl game and tell a select handful of people, you probably would risk, $10 million, if you get injured, it's probably not smart. Then that's okay. But for anybody less than that, that's not quite that high on the food chain, I think you're right. The commitment to to the team to finish it, to play the full 60. That's what football is all about. Even baseball, which I'm a huge baseball fan.
Yeah.
There's 9 guys on the field, but when the ball is put in play, it's a one-on-one sport. I've hit the ball to the shortstop. The shortstop has to execute and throw the ball to the first baseman. But each of those interactions is one guy doing his job. Very different than football, where you got to have 11 guys, on offense doing the same thing at the right time, executing a play with a lot of moving parts. It's a unique game that demands that 11 guys all are working in concert with each other, and they practice, and the repetition is the only way to get that done. So it's very different than a game like baseball, where there's 9 guys, but it's really a bunch of one-on-one encounters when the ball is put in play. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's no DH in football. You can't. And you're right. Urban Meyer once told me, he said, I can go to a football game and sit in the stands just like anybody else and just watch, and give me 10 minutes and I'll know where every weakness is on that team. I'll know if the left guard is slow. I'll know if the right tackle isn't quick enough to handle somebody off the edge. I'll know, and he's so right. It is a game that requires everybody playing together. Basketball, you can have one big guy who gets hot and can hit a 3-pointer, and everybody else becomes irrelevant if he gets hot at the right time. And that's not true in football, because the quarterback who can make all the great throws, if he's flat on his back, he can't do it. That's one of the reasons I was so impressed with Tulane yesterday, watching Michael Pratt. That talk about gutsy. That was as gutsy a performance as I've seen. If he gets sacked twice on the game-winning drive, and has to escape running for his life on a 4th down, and barely gets across the line, that's the kind of thing that football is all about. Yeah, one guy did it, but he can't do it if I watched it on the play that he makes the 4th down conversion. One of his wide receivers makes just enough of a block that he escapes for the final 3 yards.
Yeah. And you think about this, like, we're having this discussion, and it's a good discussion. It's a great discussion. And actually, without that guy, what if that particular player that made that block had to quit and not play in the bowl game? And again, trust me, I know about it, working with people with wealth management. So I understand people with money, but I tell you, people aren't stupid. They're not. This NIL stuff, Frank Duffy talked with us last week about 3 of his friends in Louisiana own businesses. They all did NIL, and every one of the players that they were involved with quit before the bowl game. You're just going to, how about the 90-yard dash? You run 90 yards the 100-yard dash, and you run 90 of it and pull up 10 yards short. Well, you're not going to win the 100, okay? Here's another one. You've got to, you can't just finish 3 hours short of your degree and claim that you're a college graduate, because you're a liar if you do. You could run for Congress in New York or whatever and possibly win, but still, you've got to finish. You got to get the job did, as Sonny said down at the tavern. You got to do it. And that's where we're screwing up big time. And how many guys today, I think about D'Angelo Williams at Memphis. He stayed all 4 years and is the all-time kick return, special, total yardage leader, I think, ever for an NCAA player from right here in Wynne, Arkansas. You talk about 11 years in the NFL. Gotta love the guy, duck hunter, turkey hunter, just great outdoorsman, great man. I would love to see these people on TV that are so afraid to speak the truth and will speak with any conviction, call these people out. I'd love to see one of these guys on there on game day or anything say, I'd be madder than a wet hen if I'm a quarterback and my starting left tackle in that bowl game that he, quote, thinks doesn't matter, quits 2 or 3 days before the bowl game because, he's not thinking about anybody but himself. And at the end of the day, you can only count on yourself. But when you sign up and you're part of a team, you got to think beyond just yourself. And you're everybody. This is why you can see turnarounds. What did Tulane do? They have the biggest turnaround from last year to this year in one season of any team in college football history. They won 2 games last year and they won 12 this year. Gus Malzahn did that, in his first year at Auburn. Then he became a career 8-5 coach. But I'm just looking out there at the Tulane story, Franz. You're right, Billy. You gotta love what they did at Tulane. I mean, that's great. And the TCU, Jordan Hill said on the show, on the segment right before you joined us, 24/7 Sports covers Georgia. He said, "Look, I had TCU preseason. What do you say, Franz, to win 2 or 3 games?
Yeah,
and here they are now, folks, 13-1. Sonny Dykes, another coach from the Mike Leach coaching tree, I might add. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Mildred's over here showing me the stopwatch. Paul, you got to take a break. Doug Dean can't hear on his transistor. But we're going to be right back to talk more about this. A lot of college football. We got basketball cranking up right now. Tomorrow night, a lot of games. A lot to cover. More in the final segment after this quick commercial break.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with Franz Beard and Billy Roberts here on the final segment of Sidelines on this Tuesday college football and basketball blitz. I want to thank everybody out there listening all over. If you catch us live, it's www.sidelines.live or go to 680thefan.com, the podcast park in Atlanta. Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, Lake Martin, Radio Alabama Group. And we're working on building a network of terrestrial radio stations as well. So a lot we're working on. To me, you don't wait till New Year's Day to start your work plan. You better plan it months in advance. And it's all about planning. And Franz and Billy, looking here where we are in college football right now. I think these bowl games, I was at the Liberty Bowl last Wednesday, Arkansas and Kansas. And if Arkansas fans were furious, they don't like Kendall Browse. They say he coaches, plays not to lose. But just as a fan, if you're Joe Sixpack out there in Ogden, Utah, and y'all all know the significance of Ogden, Utah, don't you? That's where the railroads met. Okay. But if you're out in Ogden, Utah, watching on your color TV in your house, you had to love that Liberty Bowl, triple overtime. Although my wife Audrey was like, please don't go to overtime. I got to get out of here. I'm going crazy. But I think I saw some really good football being played. Y'all tell me up to this point, these two semifinal games we had in the college football playoffs were as good as the playoff games in the NFL last year that led to the Super Bowl. I mean, that was as good as I've seen in 40 to 50 years. What I saw, Georgia and TCU, Georgia and Ohio State, Michigan and TCU was awesome. Tulane, Southern Cal. There were some really good games. I mentioned the Liberty Bowl. College football needs it. But y'all tell me, what's the best game or two you've seen so far? Start with you, Billy.
Because it was close to home, that Georgia-Ohio State game I thought was phenomenal. That game probably you played it again 3 times, Ohio State probably wins that game. That was Stetson Bennett kind of playing way over his head on that final drive. He kind of sputtered a little bit early, but found his footing, led 3 scoring drives in the second half. But, man, he looked like Joe Montana in that final drive. I mean, he threaded some needles. That touchdown pass alone was a thing of beauty, but he made 2 or 3 perfect throws to put himself in that position. So it's great to have good receivers, but, he had to deliver that ball on time, and he threw into triple coverage twice on that final drive and made it work. So good for him. I think he's probably 28 years old now, so we've probably seen the last
30.
of Stetson Bennett, but Winky won a Heisman at 29 years old, I think, for the
time.
State. So hey, there's a precedent there. So, I thought that game was incredible. That for sure. I mean, both those semifinals were fantastic. And I was a little bit like, wow, this 12-team playoff, the quality is going to get diluted. It's going to, really water the product down. But I'm not so sure. I think that kind of like the baseball postseason, you play a long season just to get in to the postseason, and then it's a tournament and anything can happen. College football is going to evolve that way. Playoff baseball is phenomenal. So I think college playoff with the expanded format, will be more of the same. And if they can, continue what they've done where, that one semifinal was a Peach Bowl and the other was the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, for these quarterfinal playoff games going forward, if they could be, an Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl, and be part of that playoff structure, that preserves kind of the prestige of the bowl system to some degree. I think that's important too. There's, college football is built on tradition, and people that just, ignore that are being stupid. There's 100 years of tradition, and from a marketing standpoint alone, you don't just throw that in the trash can. You find a way to enhance that and polish it and continue with tradition. That's just what you do if you're a smart business person. And this is a multi-billion-dollar business, as you pointed out in the earlier segment.
Yeah, and I like to go from 4 to the 12-team playoff. And look at college baseball, friends, in the World Series last year. People were writing the obituary for Ole Miss, and Mike Bianco was they were picking out his casket, and they win the national championship. They win the College World Series, and now he's the toast of the town. Fortunately, he believed in himself, his teammates, his coaches did, and some of the fans did. But Ole Miss, they took over Omaha, 20,000 plus probably at TD Ameritrade. But friends, these bowl games Billy's talking about, the heroics, just the exploits, the guys just playing lights out, just diving for loose ball, making tackles and playing hurt. I mean, there were guys playing hurt. Cameron Rising did not want to come out of that Rose Bowl. Got a lot of respect for that guy. He played as much as he could to the point where he couldn't. So your takeaway, give me your best game or two of the bowls so far, because we still got a Monday night the college football playoff national championship game?
Well, to me, the best game and the most significant game is the Cotton Bowl. Tulane beats Southern Cal. Okay. As you pointed out earlier, Rob, the greatest turnaround in college football history. But here's what's significant about that. That game showed, because Southern Cal, everybody's thinking big bad Southern Cal, Heisman Trophy, Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley could take the three of us and mold us into a Heisman contender quarterback, even though I think the three of us may have lost a step or two, in my case, over the years. But here's what's significant about that. It shows that the little guys, there is still a chance for Cinderella. Who is to say that in a 12-team playoff, I've already had people saying today, well, that was a fluke. It wouldn't happen. They couldn't win a second ball game. Are you sure about that? 2017, when UCF went undefeated and beat your Auburn Tigers. Granted, Auburn was minus a couple good players in that ball game, but they beat Auburn up there. Who is to say that given a next week, because we're going to play, it becomes an 8-team tournament after the first week in your 12 team scenario, because you have 4 teams get a bye. So you have 4 winners of ball games. You have 4 games, and you have 4 winners, and then it becomes an 8-team tournament. Who is to say that Tulane or TCU or somebody like that could not repeat and get hot? We've seen it all the time. Coastal Carolina, remember them in baseball?
Yeah.
I think it was 2015. They win the national championship. Yep. Coastal Carolina shows that there is still a place for Cinderella, that one team can get hot when nobody else expects it, and the breaks just come their way. So to me, the significance was the Cotton Bowl, because that game, I got a text this morning from somebody said it wasn't the Cotton Bowl, it was the Hope Bowl, because that game was like a ripple effect of hope going to every team in the Fun Belt, in Conference USA, the AAC, the Big Mac, the Mountain West. All these teams realize, hey, there is hope.
Well, another thing too, what Tulane did there at the end, forget about Boise State's little deal, to beat Oklahoma in 2007, because Brian Harsin was involved with it. I want to. Tulane, what they did there at the end of that game was powerful stuff. And think about the team getting hot at the right time. The 2007 New York Giants, their regular season record was, guess what, guys? 9-7. But they got hot at the right time and won the Super Bowl thanks to great catch by Plexico Burress, okay, and Eli Manning. It just, some great stuff happened out there. But when we try to say Southern Cal, okay, that was a team with 22 players I think Lincoln Riley brought from Oklahoma. Those guys that's another thing about it. The portal can help you win. It can help you win right away. But, we're used to seeing teams that have been together for 4 or 5 years. Half that roster, Jordan Addison, all the fussing and whining and moaning and groaning and complaining we had to hear about that guy. Where's he going to go? From Pitt, he goes to Southern Cal. And in that bowl game yesterday, how many catches did Jordan Addison have? He wasn't on the field. He was bigger than the game, man. He's got to go look good. Talk about himself. You know what? What's Jordan Addison going to be remembered for at Southern Cal? His NIL deal. He's not going to be remembered for making the catch in the Cotton Bowl to win it all. And those other guys that quit. Again, don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I want them to make money. But you know what? You're part of a team. Follow through. You try doing that stuff in the real world. You know, let's say you're a young accountant and you say, "Oh, during tax season, oh man, I'm going to Jamaica for 2 weeks." You know, I'm the county clerk. There's a just absolute disaster going on in my office. Can't get people's licenses taken care of and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to the beach for a week or two. You can't do that. You're part of a team. And don't tell me, well, they see the coaches. Well, the coaches are the adults. You know, when I was 19 years old, I didn't tell my parents what to do. I did what I was told. You know, I didn't talk back. I mean, I did some, but, you know, not regularly. I did. I mean, come on. I mean, Billy's known me a long time. Friends, you know, Billy and I both, you know, I'm getting texts during the show from my dad. I'm having trouble getting the show today. I'm like, I can't help you. but, you know, there's a chain of command. And just because you're 19 years old and you can run a 4.540 doesn't mean that you're the smartest person in the world and you can make all the decisions. And the adults have to just, walk around on eggshells so they don't offend you. Well, what's going to happen is those guys are going to start going to some farm system. It's going to, like the G League in basketball, which is probably dying a quick death because of NIL now in college basketball. But if you're just getting a bunch of hired guns to come on your team, one and dones, look at John Calipari. Is there a coach in college basketball who achieves less with more than John Calipari? And who Kentucky sold their collective souls? You know, remember at the end of the day, these athletic directors, they're state government employees, and they spend other people's money like state government and federal government employees spend tax money. Think about that. Think about that. Where's the return on investment? You get rid of Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M right now, and you fire him without cause, somebody or a bunch of somebodies had got to come up with $85 million. And I love hearing all these people go, oh, they got so much money at Texas A&M, it doesn't matter. Try spending some time around wealthy people and ask them for $500 to support a raffle or something like that. And you think they're just going to give you $85 million to make a coach go away? It's not that easy, folks. Again, college athletic directors, these are state government employees. Don't forget that. And that's why we're spending money the way we are now. We got to rein this stuff in. And the free market will correct all this stuff, guys. That's what I think will happen. It's just how it is. I mean, Billy?
Well, the pendulum will settle. I mean, whenever there's a big change in a system that hasn't had a lot of change in a long time, the pendulum swings too far and then it corrects. So, I mean, what's happening now is like all of these programs are dealing with basically a bunch of child actors, you know, who support their adult family, you know, and I mean, it's been going on in the entertainment business for a long time, you know, back to the days of Shirley Temple, I imagine. So, you know, you've got a 12-year-old that's making millions and their whole family's on their payroll. So who's going to tell them, you know, what to do and that they have to actually answer to? And that's what this monster has been created all of a sudden in college football. So I don't envy a coach trying to coach tough, you know, like a Kirby Smart would do. I mean, that can't be easy. I mean, you got to win it all, win big, and then say what I have to offer you is playing time on a high profile team. That's probably, if you do what I tell you, you'll very likely go to the NFL. He's one of the few coaches, and Saban obviously is, that can legitimately make that promise right now. So they can coach with old school discipline, but younger coaches that don't have that pedigree yet, it would be hard for them to coach in an old school manner. It would be a very difficult job in this environment.
Well, let me say this real quick. Look at the coaches who are coaching tough. Nick Saban, Kirby Smart. Okay. Look at the results they're getting. If that isn't making the obvious statement, screaming out there, hey, these kids want you to raise the bar. They want toughness. They want to be pushed hard. They don't want to be treated soft. But if you do treat us soft, you're going to get what you get. I want to say this real quick before we get off the air. Go out and help people with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give out of the goodness of your heart. And keep DeMar Hamlin in your prayers, if you would, that he makes a full recovery. And don't want to see that happen to anybody. And most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and remember that. Remember, you live in the greatest country in the history of the world. You don't have to be 90 years old to say that. You ought to be 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 to say that. And none of these athletes are out there getting paid all this money. Don't forget, out there are boosters all over the place who may have given more money to their NIL collective than they spent on Christmas gifts for their family members. Come on. I'm all about people making money. But if you're on a team, play through it. Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com. Great stuff. Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, covering Georgia Bulldogs. Been an awesome show. Franz, I know we got less than a minute to go. Closing comments here on our version of the Tuesday college football, basketball sidelines blitz.
Well, it's a great day for college football in that the little guy won, and we had 2 exciting playoff games for a change, and it makes me happy that we're going to go to 12-team playoff because we need to give Cinderella a chance to not turn it, for her carriage not to turn into a pumpkin, at midnight. And we need that. College football needs that. We see all the big teams, the SEC teams all getting $100 million. We need to remember that the little guys are out there too.
Absolutely right. Keep fighting, everybody. We're out of here. Got a great show. We'll see you tomorrow.